Wired Up Wednesday, where we do anything that requires a wire. So we'll be using the oven and all sorts of various gadgets on a Wednesday, just so you know. Okay, now I can put my prop away. And in today's video, I want to talk about when you are baking a loaf of bread for 12 or 16 slices. You may not necessarily want the whole thing to be a loaf of bread. And if you're alone on keto, even sometimes with your wife or husband, that can be too much bread for a week. So in this video, I'm going to be using my lupin flour sourdough, of course keto friendly bread, to show you just some ideas of what you can do with your dough. And this is with the caveat that your dough is workable. If you have a favorite bread, you don't have to use my recipes, but if you have a favorite bread and it's a bit runny, because keto bread, some of them have a runny batter, just make sure you have the right mold for whatever you want to make. With the runny batter, you can get away with making a pizza crust, you can do a burger buns, or you can make a small loaf of bread. But when the dough is workable, like, you can knead it and you can roll it out, you can make pretzels, you can make soft breakfast rolls, you can make a mini loaf, you can make focaccia bread, as I'm going to show you in this video. If anything, I hope that this video inspires you to make all different types of breads for your week. Let's get into some ideas now. Add 80 grams of blooming sourdough starter to a bowl. It equates to about 1/3 cup. Then 1 cup of lukewarm water, about 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit or 30 degrees Celsius. 1/4 cup of white vinegar, or you can also use apple cider vinegar. And 5 or 6 eggs, which should weigh around 270 grams and should be at room temperature. Whisk that together until nice and bubbly, and then set that aside. Add a cup of almond or lupin flour to a bowl, depending on which sourdough starter you're using. Then 3 tablespoons of flaxseed meal and 3 tablespoons of psyllium husk powder. Then 1.5 cups of oat fiber, or 1 cup of chia flour, or 1 cup of basil seeds if you are lecithin free. Next is 1 tablespoon and 1 teaspoon of baking powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1 tablespoon of sweetener. Mix that together until all fully incorporated and one color, and then grab your wet ingredients, and you want to give the wet ingredients a quick whisking to make sure it's bubbly again. Then combine the wet and the dry together. If you're doing this by hand, you will need a bit of elbow grease because the dough firms up well, and it should look like this. Pour out onto some baking or parchment paper and bring it together to form a ball of dough. Then divide into 4 even pieces, and you can roll them into balls. Using 1/4 of the dough, I rolled it out to a rough square shape to about a 1/2 inch thickness and pressed my fingers into the surface. And now you can guess, we are making focaccia. Do remember to always place your dough onto baking paper so it's easier. And then after I rolled my dough, I spread some Kalamata olives cut into half, dried oregano, some fresh rosemary, and I left some sprigs in there too. With all of these recipes, do remember to sprinkle a generous amount of olive oil just before baking. And this is how my mini focaccia looks. Here I divided 1 ball of dough into 2 and shaped it to make breakfast rolls. To bake multiple things at one time, you want to lay out a piece of foil and then create a divide between your different dishes. Then add them onto your baking sheet and cover with foil, and you want to bake for about 10 to 15 minutes for all these recipes. And what about a cheesy jalapeno mini bread loaf? I rolled out the dough into a rectangle shape to fit my baking tin and added chopped jalapeno and diced Parmesan cheese and pressed that in so it's secure. Then used my baking paper to roll the dough to make a log. Then I coated the surface in olive oil and garnished with a little more chopped jalapeno and diced cheese. I'm using a little mini loaf tin here that I pressed the dough into and then covered it. Whoops, my focaccia and buns are ready, so let's get that quickly, and I'm really happy with how these turned out. I did buns for copycat McMuffin breakfast and focaccia, well, because it's focaccia. Okay, need these out of my way, so my trusty sidekick to the rescue. Bread goes in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes. How about pizza? I rolled out one ball of dough, then I cooked sliced chicken and chorizo sausage and set aside to let it cool. My choice of low-carb tomato sauce is passata, but for the life of me, I can't open a sealed bottle. Thank you. I added 3 tablespoons of the sauce and spread it. Added the chicken, then the chorizo, a generous amount of shredded mozzarella, and freshly grated parmesan. Then I sprinkled olive oil like the Italians do, and my favorite herb for pizza is oregano, so that's going on top of the cheese. Timer has gone off for the cheesy jalapeno bread, and just have a look at this. The pizza is now ready to bake for 15 minutes, and thanks to the magic of editing, this is now ready. And come take a look. The idea for this video came from me working through my almond flour sourdough bread, and yes, it has got smaller because I cut from the middle. But I thought, instead of always having to freeze my bread, I could make a whole lot of different things with just one dough. And I hope this video was useful for you and you get to have variety and enjoy your keto diet for the week. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and be well.